Frame number 4, preceding. It's funny because I've known this one for years, and all good salesmen, I think, intuitively understand that. But a lot of people don't realize that there's a huge influence here. This is why I highly recommend you take a look at this book if you haven't, called Persuasion by Cialdini. I've gotten to know Cialdini. I met him and his wife, had a wonderful conversation with them, and it was fascinating. They were like, you might know Persuasion better than anybody we've ever met, Jason, because I was quoting Bible and verse from his first book, Influence, to him and Babette. It was fantastic. So I've really taken the effort to understand the preceding frame. So I'm going to share with you some of the interesting insights that Cialdini breaks down here. And again, I highly recommend that you take a deeper look at this. But this is on page 29, I believe, that they discuss this in this book, where they roll out this split test. So they're at a mall, and the first group of people that they show up, they said, hey, listen, I would like to send you a free sample of a soft drink. All I need is your email address so I can give you the information of where to send the sample to. The second group, they said exactly the same thing, but they only asked one question first before going to the script. So the only thing that was different was a single question that they put in front of the message. And the question was, do you consider yourself to be somebody who is adventurous and likes to try new things? Now, here's what's really interesting about this. 97.2% of people they asked said, yes, I consider myself adventurous and liking to try new things. So the preceding frame is so powerful because what happens is somebody thinks of a time where they were adventurous, and then they confirm that statement. All right? So what was the results? Without this one single question, literally a one single question, they got 1 out of 3 people essentially say, here's my email address. With that question, do you consider yourself an adventurous person? They got 75.7% people to say yes. And they found the same thing true as if you were going up and trying to ask a stranger out on a date. Are you open to new things as a question before asking them out on a date had a higher compliance rate. They found that if a woman came up to a man and said, hey, those 4 guys over there stole my cell phone, will you get it back for me? They're over there on Main Street. A man was much less likely to go over there and get her phone for her than if she came over to the man and said, hey, listen, those guys over there who stole my phone, those 4 big scary guys on Valentine Street. Because the word Valentine put it in their head to be more the type of man who would do something for a woman and save her and this and that. That's how effective the preceding frame can be. And this is what he says, and this is on page 26. He says, according to this approach, to get desired action, it's not necessary to alter a person's belief or attitudes or experiences or anything at all, except what's prominent in that person's mind at the moment of decision. So if your product, if somebody who is in a cautious state of mind would be more likely to buy your product, you just have to elicit a time in their life where they were cautious and it was to their advantage, and then ask them to do the same thing with your offer. And if it was bold, then you do that with the bold frame, right? So what precedes your message is so important. It can't be overstated how important it is. And so here's a funny example for you, just to prove a point. We did this training for Zoom, and it was great. We, like the platform you're on now, literally the company Zoom had me come in and had our team Rapid Crush train a lot of the Zoom users on how to do webinars more effectively. And we were sending them to a book from the webinar. On the book, they would then book an appointment on the back of it, and then our reps would get on the call with them and see if it made sense for us to create their webinars for them. And my joke was this. Instead of just sending them to this landing page on the webinar that says, hey, click here to get your book copy, right? What if we first send them to this? Hey, where'd you hear about Jason Fladlien? And the first option was the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. The second option was the Forbes 100 Richest People. The third option was Times Man of the Year. And the fourth option was Other. And then we sent them to the page. So we put that message in front of them, literally added a step to the process. We would probably get a better result. Now, obviously, I don't recommend that you lie or that you make that kind of stuff up, but what are we doing? Before we give them the message, we're putting certain things in their head that's going to influence the receptivity to the message. So here's another one for you, and this is an interesting one. So this is what I was talking with John Ratliff and Joe about on their course on how to exit your business, because John exited this for $65 million. I said, guys, here's the challenge. People can't think about the exit in their business because it's so far off in the future. It's a delayed gratification. And that's a very hard challenge to get somebody to want to invest and move forward with it today. So I said, consider this frame. Start with, at the beginning of your pitch or your messaging or however you're doing your education, tell people about the marshmallow test. Now, I'm assuming every one of you here, or most of you here, are familiar with the marshmallow test. It's a fascinating piece of psychology. They took kids and said, listen, you can have a marshmallow today, right now, or if you wait for a short period of time, when I come back, if you don't eat that marshmallow, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. And then they measured kids, and they saw how many kids would delay gratification for 2 marshmallows versus how many kids couldn't resist and had to have instant gratification. And then they measured those kids' progress over multiple decades. And they found those that were able to delay gratification had significantly higher rates of success in all areas of life than those that would just eat the marshmallow right away. So I would proceed with that story before then talking about, are you a kid that eats 1 marshmallow, or are you the kid that waits and gets 2 marshmallows? Are you willing to delay a little bit of sales today to have a huge exit a year or 2 or 3 from now? And I said, there might be something there. Now, just because you do these techniques doesn't mean it'll magically work 100% of the time, right? But it's an interesting way of thinking about it because, again, everybody wants to do straight line. Let's just educate people on why it's important to exit and why it makes sense logically to exit and why you should exit and all that nonsense. And yeah, that's all true, right? But I want to control the frame. Because I know it's better for that person to think of the exit who we're targeting than not to think of the exit. So how can I gain leverage in that situation? And then my punchline would be, before launching into the message, I say, unfortunately, 98% of business owners fail the marshmallow test. Do you want to know what the business marshmallow test is? And then you break it down. There are 2 types of companies, those that build the exit and those that don't. Those that don't are just like the kids that eat the 1 marshmallow. Those that do, they wait and they don't get 2 marshmallows, they get a lot more than 2. And that's the preceding frame.